Look at
we,
that.
we've switched sides.
I don't know what happened, but yes, I'm usually on the right side. I'm feeling a little off now all of a sudden now that you mentioned that. So
Oh, I think
it's
you
all
can just
good.
I think you can just drag. Look at that.
Oh, see now my mind's blown. Now I'm all messed up now. So
This is a pretty sweet little platform though, man. And I kind of they've I kind of grew with this platform. I bought into this. I mean, years ago. Years. This was one of those got an app for it type purchases.
yeah.
One of my impulse buys, and I got a lifetime deal on it, and it works really well. They've really come a long way with it, so pretty happy with it. Anyway, how you doing today?
Well, it's supposedly I had to close the blinds, but it's supposedly supposed to be what, 76 degrees today or something on February 27th. I guess we have global warming is in full effect today, right? Let's 70 might be a record high. I don't know.
Well,
We close to a record high?
I have no idea, but I can tell you that last year on this date, I know this because today is the first of three of the CrossFit Open.
Oh,
And so last year on this day, we had these same temperatures. I was actually hot outside. So we're just in that transition period is what it is. I know we were talking a bit earlier, my house tends to it takes a while to absorb the season that we're in. But once we start making that transition, I start getting like little creaks in the floors and the house is slowly starting to warm up. Our days are getting longer. Thank God. I could even deal with the cold weather. I just want longer days. I want more sunshine. That's what I want.
well, daylight savings is next weekend, right? So not this weekend, but next weekend. So you'll get your wish very soon. Very
Yes,
soon.
sir. Yes, sir. All right.
Is it?
Let me
Is there?
go ahead.
Sorry, my wife and I were talking about earlier this week. She goes she goes to me. She says, "Is there some reason why we're still not in Cabo?" I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know. But with weather like this, it makes you forget about the need to go
Yeah.
go south for warmer temperatures, I guess. So yeah.
Yeah. We didn't have much of a conversation before this, but I guess there's some unrest going on down there, and so uh, of course we started getting text messages from friends and family. Oh my gosh, are you okay? Is everything right down? I'm like, guys, you don't understand. This place is like these people are awesome. These people are awesome down here. But anyway,
Yeah.
won't jump off into that.
Yeah, but I think it's dying down. It started there in Jalisco, where Puerto Vallarta is, which isn't that far from Cabo over there on the mainland. But uh, I think it's well, I don't know, dying down. Anything can always spiral up again, I guess too. But I think there's the government is starting to get it under control. I think so.
Well, here's my wish. Here's my hope. I know that's all going on in Jalisco. I hope it does not affect tequila production. That's what I hope.
Yes, yes, because Jalisco is known. You're correct. That's like
That's the only place you
the
can buy
mother origin of
right.
good tequila. That is correct.
It's
Yeah.
like bourbon being distilled in Kentucky. It's only bourbon if it's distilled in Kentucky. So same sort of thing. Everything else is just mezcal.
Yes,
So,
just nonsense.
all right, man.
So
So I want to do some. We're going to do this a little bit different today because this is. I think you're going to take the wheel of sorts because you know more about this than I do at the present time. I know about this. I know about the topic of this podcast, but I think you probably have dug into it a little bit more than me. If I'm wrong about that, then you can stop me now and we'll let my squirrely brain try and weed it through this thing.
no, I've dabbled a little bit in it too. No, I didn't really read I guess the official regulations or whatever from FinCen. But yes, I think we're probably know enough to be dangerous and to be pissed off that Big Brother's in our shit again as usual. So yeah,
Yeah.
we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a minute. So I guess
So yeah, let's just kick this off. We're going to talk today about the last year we had a new ruling that came out, a new law with FinCen. If you don't know what FinCen is, it is the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, and they're the ones that, like you said, Big Brother. We thought they had their hands in everything before. Well, guess what? Are they literally? They have their hands in your bank accounts. And if they see that you've violated some of these rules, they can literally put their hands into your bank account, seize your bank account, all that good stuff. So we're going to talk about that. This new ruling takes effect on March 1st, which is just a couple of days away. So let's get into this, and let's hopefully by the end of this, we're gonna have a little bit of a remedy for those folks out there, um, regardless of whether the law has to do with how you finance properties, and so now they've kind of changed it. To my understanding, they've changed it so that you have to report cash deals as well. So hopefully by the end of this podcast, we will have some recommendations um, on how real estate investors can actually navigate this and potentially avoid it altogether. Right? I mean, and that's the goal.
Yes, of course. There's apparently an out until I think it was intentional, probably, but yes, yeah. Can we just go back a second too and revisit FinCen for
Mhm.
it's my favorite government acronym, like near and dear FinCen, is that if you remember right, there was all this brouhaha what that started probably 3 or 4 years ago because there was a actual law enacted that says that you have to report the ownership of your LLCs regardless of where your LLC was recorded. So a lot of people created LLCs in Wyoming or Delaware or Nevada or name the state with great privacy, corporate privacy laws, right? And then all that was going to be broken by this other requirement that put in place, and it went by the wayside. Okay, technically it's still on the books. It's just not being enforced.
Right.
It is my understanding, right? It's still there and on the books. It's just not being enforced. And there were several court rulings in favor of the LLC owners. In other words, against the invasion of privacy that FinCen was doing as it relates to that. Now, they were just doing it as it relates to the law that was passed, right? They were so that's a separate thing. The Corporate Transparency Act, the CTA, by the way, when we talk about it. So that's when people got to know FinCen. Their purpose is to stop, as you mentioned, to stop financial crimes. Okay, in order to do that, though, they think they need to know everything about everything about everything about everything in order to do that, as opposed to just actually tracking the money laundering. Right. So anyway, that's a little bit about
Yeah.
FinCen. So now FinCen is back with a vengeance. And interestingly enough, this kind of snuck up. It snuck up on me, if I'm being honest. Hold on a second, my camera's all messed up. It snuck up on me to be a little bit honest. Like I had heard about it a few months ago, but I just thought like the Corporate Transparency Act is like, okay, well, we're not going to enforce that and we're not going to worry about it and blah blah blah. But no, this apparently is going to take effect, as you mentioned, on Sunday. So what does all that mean, and what the hell are we talking about? So I'll just keep going on. FinCen now is going to be sitting with you at your closing tables when you purchase property, right? An uninvited guest now has come to the closing table, right? Because title companies will be required to report information about the closing and the transaction. In other words, any sale that's involving an entity uh, and does not have an institutional loan, right? So that's cash, that's seller financing, that's subject to, that's DSCR loans, all of that stuff, right, has to be reported. It has to be reported. There's no reporting requirement before, right? Now it all has to be disclosed and reported. And it has to be, with license and pictures and all of that stuff. So that's
And enforced
basically what's
at the
going
title company, right? I mean, it's enforced with the title. Like
the
they can
title.
actually lose their
Well, the
license.
attorney,
Right.
right, will be the ones that have to
Man, that's
will
nuts.
be the enforcement mechanism, so to speak. So yes.
Can you
Yes.
imagine being deputized unwillingly? I mean, it's almost like the draft, although that's a much different situations, but you're being deputized by the federal government to do their job for them, um, based upon what, like what authority? I don't
Yes.
know. It's wild that they're now the enforcement leg up for the federal government. It's crazy.
Yes. And it gets even a little worse too, because it's not only purchase transactions, whether you're doing it with cash or subject to or so, it's it's any transfer of deed. So if you took, like, a lot of investors when they start out, and I did this right before I knew any better. Well, I probably knew better, but I just did it anyway and then solved the problem later. Is that you want to buy your first real estate investment property and you have a good W-2 job, right? So you can get approved for a second property, for an investment property. And so you do that with a traditional lender. Well, a lot of times the traditional lender, like if you're just doing that, it'll be in your personal name, right? And then if you want to take that and transfer it to an LLC that you set up later for, as for protection purposes of obvious reasons, right? Into your LLC, that now will have to be reported as well. If you transfer it into a trust, we'll talk about that too. There's an exception. But if you transfer it into trust, in other words, if there's any change of title, change of ownership on the title, it must be reported. And it involves all the parties to the transaction, their names, home addresses, identification has to be recorded, which the title company does anyway, but everything has to be recorded and sent somewhere. Right? It's being sent somewhere. So big brother is now having these we say these AI data farms that are going in. Brother, it's much more than just AI data farms. It's data farms, period.
Hmm.
Where do you think all this information is going to be stored and housed? Right? Doesn't have anything to do with AI necessarily, but they got to store it somewhere. So don't think that a lot of that's not going on here with all of this stuff.
Man,
So
I'm
sorry, that's my little diatribe. So,
yeah, it's
Mr.
pretty heavy.
Coffman,
I have to
why
tell you.
would we be required to do that? Like we never were before. What could be the benign, innocent explanation for this requirement, do you think?
Man, there is none. It's simply power that not it has even been given. It's just been taken. There's been no, there, as it relates to the federal government. There is no, um, like in our local communities, we have town halls and we have, uh, you know local decisions. There's nothing like that. It's just a heavy-handed bullying type of tactic that, I don't know. It's deplorable. It's deplorable if you ask me. I just don't. I'm not a big government. I don't have a lot of faith in the government. Literally, well, let's just say I have none whatsoever. Like literally anything that they say, I generally, I am 1,000% skeptical. So until it comes to things like this, where the rubber meets the road, and it's just this authoritarian type of thing. I don't know. I'm on my diatribe now. So
No,
it's,
no, I think we should talk about that a little bit though, because I can't think. So, okay, look, if I take a step back and I look at FinCen, Financial Crimes Enforcement, okay, so that sounds great. Like, I don't want people doing financial crimes. Like, I don't want to be a victim of financial crime. Like, I don't want money laundering. Like, okay, if I am a real estate investor doing, and I've done approaching 300 deals in 20 years or whatever, and never once has that impacted anybody except me and the other party to the transaction, right? Why does the government need to know? Like there's a legitimate question, like, why do they need to know? What are they doing with the information? Why? It's never mattered before, and now all of a sudden it matters. And it's not just particular transactions, it's all transactions. As we say, all purchase, well, all transactions involving a change of ownership on title, period. Why? What could they possibly need to know that for? Why do they need to be in my business knowing that? That's the real question. Like, what? I haven't heard that. I haven't seen that anywhere. And I actually looked for that. I researched that a little bit. Okay, well, what's obviously just the global? We want to prevent financial crime. But if I'm buying a subject to deal from a distressed seller, we already know that that's not a crime. So what exactly is the reason they need to know that?
Yeah. And meanwhile, man, I've got a whole diatribe about this, but meanwhile, they are literally printing the very instrument that they're trying to that this law intends to enforce. They're printing it out of control. That's probably why we have these things. The money printing is just
Yes.
it's way beyond what is recoverable. There's it's way beyond reproach at this point. Like, it's just so far gone. I just can't see how it's ever. It never will. We will never recover from it, in my opinion. But they're trying to. They create the very instrument that they now have to fight, which is a classic big government move. They create the problem, and magically they're the only ones that have the solution for it. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know, man. I get what you're saying. Like, I don't. Nobody wants to be a victim of financial crime, and I could. But there's a massive. Well, if we look at, like, let's just take the stock market for example. Right now, there are a lot of investors, big ones too, the Warren Buffetts of the world, that have sold off, millions and millions of shares of ownership in companies. And guess what they're doing? They're hoarding cash. Well, guess what? Now they have to put that cash somewhere. They have to put it, either they're going to hold on to it until until the value goes back up again, or they're going to put it in other safer investments. And so I could see where moving this hoard of cash around could be possibly put into some shady stuff. I don't know, like artwork. I don't know if you've been keeping up with that or not, but so again, they've created this problem by throwing all of this cash into circulation, and now magically, mystically, they're the only ones that know how to solve it. It's bananas. It's just crazy.
Yeah, and not to belabor this, but as I understand the new thing going in on March 1st, this is really okay. So we're going to buy a property. All right, I'm going to get my private money guy, or we're going to use it from we're going to get a guy to fund it from the self-directed IRA. His information, his personal information, must be disclosed too, if I understand correctly, because he's a party to the transaction. Anybody that's a party to the transaction has to be invaded. Basically, I mean, I don't know
what you wanted to say. It's okay,
right? Yeah, I mean, everyone has to be there. And again, some people may not care about this, but I am of the mind that the government exists for basically two reasons: safety and security, infrastructure, roads, highways, bridges. I even put maybe education, even though that's kind of a whole nother subject. But all of that stuff, right? That's the purpose of government, right? Just on a grand scale of things, right? The purpose of government is not to monitor my private money transaction buying a property. That's not the purpose of government.
Right. Agreed.
Right. And if it was illegal to do that, then I shouldn't be allowed to do it in the first place. You know what I mean? There should be a law preventing me from doing that if it's illegal, if it's of such concern. Hasn't been since the dawn of time, right? I mean, right. Going way back, into the 1800s, the foundation of the country. I mean, people have been buying and selling real estate. Well, some might argue we stole real estate. That's a whole separate thing. But legally buying and selling real estate for a long time now, right? And it's never been a problem before. So now all of a sudden it's a problem for some reason. Why is that? One might argue, I did hear this one might argue, well, they want to know if there are foreign people involved in the transaction buying up our real estate and our land, like we've heard a lot of that, especially here in the Midwest. China owns a lot of farms here in the Midwest. That's a true statement.
Mm-hmm.
In order to fix that problem, all you need to do is pass a law that you can't be a foreign entity that owns the land, like every other country in the world. Like every other country in the world,
Yes.
mind you. You don't need to sit next to me with your big brother arms at the closing table. That's
Yeah.
not going to prevent that.
All right. Yeah, it's pretty wild, man. Um, but I do want to talk about. You mentioned earlier. We talked about the types of transactions that are going to be monitored. So, I mean, from my understanding, it's literally any deed of any transfer of deed.
Yep. Yep.
Which,
Change
by the
ownership.
way, remind me later. We want to talk about trusts a little bit more, and I know you have a little bit of a I don't know if I want to call this. By the way, I have to get this out of the way. We're not attorneys. You guys go out and look
Oh,
this up. Got to get
yes.
that out there.
We just do a lot of transactions, buying and selling transactions.
That's
So
right.
yeah.
That's right. So,
Yeah.
but I do want to talk about the trust thing again because I know that you had mentioned to me that there are one or more exceptions to this reporting requirement. Is that right?
There is only one exception actually
Oh,
to the
okay.
reporting requirement, and it specifically transfers to a revocable trust where the person doing the transferring is the grantor of the trust. So in other words, you. So you have your home in, right, it's just in your personal name now, and you want to put it into a revocable trust for estate planning purposes. You can do that so long as you're the transferor and the grantor of the trust.
So I want to clear something up for folks too on the grantor transfer. How do I say that?
Transfer or yeah,
Yeah,
transfer.
transfer
It doesn't roll off the tongue, does it?
or the grantor.
Yeah.
A lot of folks. So we, obviously we use trust pretty extensively. Almost every deal we buy in a trust. When I've had that because I just had this question pop up probably about a month ago, and it was confusion around who the grantor is in a title transfer into a trust because they got to the closing table. I guess their paperwork was a little messed up, and they had the grantor of the trust as the previous owner of the property, and that is a natural thing to think that a grantor is the person who is transferring into the trust, and that person needs to be the prior owner. That is not the case. The way I want people to think about, I want you to replace the word grantor with creator.
Creator, yes.
All the grantor in a trust is they are the creator of the trust.
Yes, yes,
Okay,
that's a
so
perfect way of looking at that. Yes.
so the way that you need to understand this, if you're going to transfer a property into a trust, the grantor is literally it can be the previous owner.
Yeah.
The problem with that is a grantor can revoke a trust.
Yeah.
So your subject to deal that you transferred into a land trust, if you have the grantor listed as the previous owner of the property, that grantor can go straight to an attorney and the grantor can say, I would like to revoke this trust, and they will get it. It's happened. I know two people that it's happened to already, and they actually have a leg to stand on. But the grantor does not have to be the previous owner. The grantor is the creator of the trust, and so when you transfer a property into a trust, you want yourself to be the grantor. You are the kind of the
creator and transferor of the
you are the overseer, if you
Yes.
will, of that private contract.
Yeah.
You are the person that has the say so. By the way, the grantor can be and oftentimes is either the trustee, or it can have beneficial ownership or partial beneficial ownership as well.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to get that out of the way. I wanted to clear that up because there is a lot of confusion about that, and I kind of think rightfully so, because if you assign the grantor, uh, or if you make the grantor the previous owner of the property, you kind of defeat
You're
in a
losing
roundabout way.
control. Yeah,
Right, you
you've
lose control of it.
technically uh, given control, not given control. You've lost. Yeah, you could lose control of the trust by doing that.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
So yeah, you don't want to do that. So now you're probably saying, okay, well then I'll just create the trust and have my LLC be the beneficiary of the trust. So here's so I would say no to that to get around this rule. What you want to do, you want to be the grantor, creator of the trust, and the initial beneficiary. Okay, that's what you want to do to get around this rule with the revocable trust. And by the way, when you put a piece of real estate, real property as the asset into a revocable trust, by definition, that becomes a land trust,
Mhm.
assuming there's no other assets in there. Like
Correct.
if it's the only asset, by definition, it becomes a land trust. So let's just make sure we understand that. You don't have to call it a land trust. And as we have alluded to in previous podcasts, that irritates Ken. There's no land trust statute in Missouri, right? So just call it a revocable trust, like in the title of it, like we do, like the Cascade Preservation Trust, right? Or preservation, revocable preservation, just whatever. You can put, right? And this might be smart now, given this rule, to put the word revocable in the title of your trust. Okay. And then be the creator of the trust, which is the grantor, and be the initial beneficiary of the trust. That would satisfy. Then right after all that's created and recorded, right? And then you do a warranty deed into the trust, right? So now the property's into the trust. You don't have the FinCen reporting requirements with this one exception. And then, like the next day, maybe you just transfer your beneficial ownership to your LLC inside the trust. You can assign and quit claim your beneficial ownership, which is now personal property, inside the trust to your LLC or another trust or whatever you want to do. I'm thinking I might double, triple layer my trust now with Big Brother in my
Trust
business.
upon trust upon trust.
Trust inside trust, brother. Trust
Yeah.
inside trust. That's
Yeah.
right. So you can do that. That's actually very easy to do. It's just
Oh yeah. Yeah.
another
Yeah.
document with another signature. It's really not very hard
Yeah.
to do. Not that I've not been that paranoid right up until, let me think, this week. So yes, I might start doing that. But that is the carve out. So now can we take a step back just for a second and say some people might be saying, okay, well that's all great, but logistically that's a little weird to me. Okay, so how does this work? So let's just walk through an example. Let's say we're getting a subject to deal. Okay, and we're going to close that, right? So what is the, well, we're going to close it March 31st or April 1st. So now we have all these reporting requirements and say, okay, well, I'm going to create a revocable trust for that property so that I can get around this reporting requirement. Okay. And you can do that at closing. You need to create the trust and put the property in trust. And then at closing, everything can be signed. The property can be deeded into the trust simultaneously, thereby the trust now is in force, right, at the time of closing. And if, as long as you meet these requirements, right, you meet these requirements, you will not have to report that to FinCen. And now you have a revocable trust, a land trust, because you put a piece of real estate in it, right? That you can then change the beneficial ownership to your LLC shortly thereafter. So,
Yeah. And by the way, I don't know. Someone might have mentioned this, or someone may have even been talking about this for the past 5 years. But someone I know has stated publicly that the trust is the very, very last real kind of bastion of freedom that we have.
yes,
Not just our personal lives, but certainly in real estate. It is the last It seems to be the thing that has been quote untouchable. I don't want to jinx myself, but um, yeah, I mean it's the greatest tool on the planet. Um,
Yep. And
I
can we? Sorry, I just want to make sure that people understand if land trusts are illegal, quote unquote illegal, or
mhm,
not recognized in your state, which then attorneys
41st.
just take to mean illegal,
Mhm.
that is a bunch of hogwash. Why do you think it is that revocable type trusts are constantly being carved out of all these requirements, rules, and regulations?
It's a good point.
Why do you think that is?
Hmm.
Land trusts are exactly what all the elite bastards are using, right, to get out of all this stuff. And if they can do it, you can do it, right? You just have to know how to properly apply things. So that's why you partner with us. Sorry, shameless
Oh,
plug.
that's okay.
Shameless plug of the day.
Good
So
call. No, I have probably, I don't know, well, at least for the last 3 or 4 years, I have been it's kind of dwindled, but I've been on this mission to get people to, especially, it's very hard for folks to understand the all the mechanisms and the inner workings of a trust and the things that you can and can't do within a trust, which, by the way, is pretty much wide open. A trust
yes, it can be
probably
very complicated, but can be very simple too. Keep it
can be
simple.
very simple.
Yep.
But I do want to point out that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe there is a requirement for, I know there isn't, for assigning beneficial ownership or selling beneficial ownership as personal property inside of a trust, as it relates to this reporting requirement. Now,
That is that is correct. Yeah, it's only real property transfers of ownership, as far as I understand, is the reporting requirement as of March 1st. Yes.
okay, let's just go ahead and assume that that's the case. I'm 99% sure it is. For those of you who are learning how to use revocable trusts, quote, land trusts, what is preventing you, other than maybe educating, say, a buyer, from transferring personal property, ownership, beneficial interest of a trust to your buyer versus going through this whole rigmarole of, all these reporting requirements, going through closings, having all these closing costs? Because you have to understand, when you purchase a property in a trust, the trust actually gets the homeowner's policy, it gets the title policy. All of that stuff is in place. So they're gonna do a title search on whatever property is you're gonna be uh, placing into that trust. So now they've issued a title policy. Now you have an insurance hazard insurance policy. What now prevents you from selling the personal property, which is beneficial ownership, that is personal property? What prevents you from selling that ownership on terms? Is there any law on the planet that says you can't sell your personal property on terms?
Nope.
So I want to get
Not yet. Wait a second. Not yet.
yeah. Well, I just want to get the point across. This is the power of using a trust in real estate, because and now, admittedly, it is very, very hard. I've failed numerous times of trying to get a buyer to understand this, because, and by the way, you can do this at a title company too.
Yeah.
You can have a title run. You don't have to buy a new policy. You don't have to do any of that. But if it makes your buyer feel better, you can close at a title company. Get the big mahogany table, and everyone's got their
Mm-hmm.
pens out, and
Yeah.
literally they're just signing one piece of paper for the
Yep.
most part. But you can provide all the, the title insurance, the title policy number, the whole. You can provide the whole abstract for the title policy. I mean, all that stuff is already in place. Literally, all you have to do is, in the insurance policy, you change who the uh, what's the word I'm looking for, the
Named insured.
named insured. Thank you. You change the named insured in there, or you add a third party insured in there, and it's over with. That deal is done. You've now sold that property on terms, or you've sold the personal property within that trust on terms. I just want to drive that home. That's how powerful these trusts are.
Yep.
It's amazingly simple. It's stupid simple, but crazy, crazy powerful.
Yep.
By the way, if you do that, guess who's still the grantor of that trust? If you named yourself the grantor in the
Yes,
beginning,
indeed. Yes,
so
indeed.
guess what?
Right. You're the creator, right? Just call yourself you if you're the creator of the trust, right?
Yep.
Keep that in mind. Creator, you're creating the trust and the initial beneficiary.
Yep.
So that is the carve out exception.
So,
And so
crazy, crazy powerful. Yep.
yes, we talked. I don't know how long ago it was, but pretty recently we talked about title companies on the policy. So now you have yet another question to put into the bank on your title company is: are you aware of the revocable trust exception to the FinCen reporting? And if your title company says no, then find another title company.
Yeah, that was going to be one of the questions that I had, or more of a statement of, you're going to have these title companies, and they're going to be your shopping mall type of strip mall type of title companies that are just going to go, nope, nope, we've got this reporting requirement. You got to do it.
Yes, they'll comply no matter what. Some of them, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Which, by the way, if I'm being honest, if I got to close a deal, I'm probably going to do it. I'm probably going to do the reporting. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's situational, right? I don't know, but you only have to do it once at that point if you do it.
Right. If we're buying it, let's say we're buying it in an LLC. I might not be so adverse to the reporting depending on what the deal was, but I'm sure as shit going to be moving the property into a trust after that, especially
Correct.
if I'm holding it, right?
Yep.
And once it's in the trust, it's in the trust, right?
Yep.
And remember, your LLC can be the grantor of the trust, and then that's easy because then they'll also be the initial beneficiary, which is what you want anyway. So, right, just keep that in mind
Yeah,
as well
I
as
think we
your
have probably another episode on, in light of just this new, I don't know, this new ruling. I think we probably need to have another episode on trusts, because
yeah.
I'm, and maybe it's just me. Maybe I just want to drive home the importance of this. And
We can do it. It's been a while since we've done a trust episode. We can do another trust episode too. You know what might be fun? Maybe I'll do a little back homework and I'll talk to a couple different title companies and say, hey, what are you doing in preparation for this? And are you aware of the revocable trust carve out? And how does that? And if you're aware of it, how do you want that to look? Like what procedurally are you wanting to see to make sure that that's in compliance with with what you've seen? So
right, yeah, and I'm hoping they have some kind of questionnaire, where that can be answered in a questionnaire. You don't have to fight that battle every single time. You can just check a box, and they can quickly look over your certificate of title and see who the grantor is. They can see who the beneficiaries are. Actually, they don't get to see who the beneficiaries are. They only get to see who the trustee is. But yeah, so it's very, very interesting. But again, despite what people might tell you, a trust is, and it's not easy. It's got its hurdles. It's got, especially initially, it's got its drawbacks. But once it's established and once it's funded, it is just one of the most magnificent tools on the planet. So I highly advise anybody, whether or not you even care about this FinCen thing, it might not be a big deal to you at all. Regardless, let's look past the FinCen ruling, and then let's look at just the simple power behind using a trust in your transactions. It's totally, totally awesome.
So I just put because I don't have a QR code we need to make a QR code for our Land Trust Essential package in there too. But we have a question in here too. So I thought the original trustee grantor is the seller, and then you immediately do a trustee resignation.
You can't. I mean, you can.
You can do that.
The grantor will never change. The grantor is permanent.
Creator of the trust.
It's the creator of the trust. The trust would not exist without the creator. Now, with the trustee, you can name any trustee. You're 100% correct. But the trustee is, as I know they're the trustee of the trust, and it sounds like a really important role. But as far as, and if we're talking about subject to, the trustee, whoever the trustee, doesn't really matter. Anybody can be named a trustee, anyone, because that's the point behind a trust. An independent third party is holding trust in that agreement, right? They're just, for example, I could be the trustee of my friend's trust. And as it relates to a subject to deal, that doesn't matter. That's what they expect. That's the whole point. An independent third party is the trustee of that trust. What they do care about are who the beneficiaries are.
Yeah.
And I think what Marcus is asking here, or I'm just going to kind of redirect you to the important roles in a trust. Number one is the grantor. The grantor never changes. The grantor, you can't resign as the grantor. The grantor is the creator. The trustee does not matter. It can be literally anyone on the planet. It can be another business, although I don't recommend it being like an LLC or something like that. It can get complicated. I like a singular person as the trustee. And then what really matters are the beneficial owners. So now I've transferred properties both ways, where I'll name a trustee and I will assign my LLC right off the bat as beneficial owner. You don't have to do it that way. If you're really frightened of due on sale, if that's what's driving your concerns, you can make the previous owner the initial beneficial owner of that trust, and then have them immediately resign. And then you assign your LLC or yourself, whoever you want, as beneficial owner of that trust. By the way, you can wholesale deals this way too. I'm telling you, this trust is. I mean, you get me down a rabbit hole on this, but I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
Trustee does not matter. The trustee is not the same thing as the grantor.
Yeah, and I think Marcus's question goes to, what are you doing with the property and why are you creating the trust? So for instance, if you're doing a subject to deal and you create the trust prior to closing, right, for whatever reasons you want to do that, which is totally fine, then you could certainly have the seller in that transaction be the initial trustee. You could also have them be the initial beneficiary and just assign all the beneficial ownership over to you. It just depends on what you want, why you're doing that, and what's going to, for the purposes of this, though, the initial beneficiary for the carve out, it's my understanding, right? This will get adjudicated too, by the way, as we start going through this. So what we say here today may change by next month at this time from whatever their new rules are or whatever. But hold on a second, my camera's going crazy again. But you want the person that's creating the trust and doing the transferring into the trust should be the initial beneficiary, right? That's the carve out in there too. So I want to think it doesn't really matter who the trustee is, as you mentioned, in there as well. But I think Marcus's question goes towards why are you doing that? When are you creating the trust, and what are the reasons for that? So it's just a matter of, we can still all do that. You might just need to tweak the process a little bit depending on how you've done it in the past to get around this reporting requirement. You know, your timeline, when do you create the trust, and all that stuff. So
yeah, but I do want to point out in his comment, he says trustee/grantor. So I want to make sure that you understand that those are not the same. It's not the same party. They're totally different. Just always remember that the grantor is the creator, you, not the seller. And then the trustee is whomever you'd like to name it. That's whoever. Yep. It doesn't really matter, because that is the point, as I said, behind the trust.
Another good question he just put in here too. Yes, in the documents, we don't necessarily overtly list the grantor and or transferor or whatever. But I think you're correct, Marcus. We should revise our documents so that those things are clearly listed, especially if we're doing an ownership change via deed. We want that deed, the listing on the deeds to match the listings into the trust, like doing a cover page, much like there is a deed of trust cover page we do sometimes. Yes, I do think we will start making those changes as we move forward here and seeing exactly how all this falls out. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for reasons I'm not going to get into here. It was intentionally the grantor was not intentionally named in that first because, um, well, I'm not going to get into it
It's
here.
privacy,
It was
like
written by
it's going into the privacy stuff again too. But we may do that for just this reason.
yeah. I think we're going to have to. I think we're going to have that revised. So
Yep.
yeah, good questions, man. Should the grantor be labeled somewhere? Yeah. Um, like Ken said, we'll update the docs, and I'm pretty sure you have a copy of our docs, but we'll update the docs and um, we'll get upon request, we'll shoot one over to you.
And then that's a good one too. So just based on those couple of questions too, it might be good to maybe we'll let it roll out a little bit and get some info about what the title companies want to see for the carve out, and then we will correlate that into our documents moving forward, so it's not an issue with the
Yeah.
title company.
Yeah.
But yes, that sounds like a future episode. Land trust, using land trust to put your middle finger up at FinCen. I think that's the title.
I don't think we do that. I don't want to.
Oh, okay, all right. Just
Skynet's out there listening.
oh God, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So
So, but that's all good. Good stuff today, brother.
yeah, yeah, it's very interesting. Um, Again, though, I just want to reiterate: do you see how we have potentially kind of not solved, but we've potentially with the trust. There's so many things. It's so flexible that way, and so just unbelievably, it's like malleable. You can just kind of mold a trust into really anything that you want because it's a private agreement, and as long as you're as long as the agreements inside of that private agreement aren't overtly illegal, um,
Yes.
you're gonna be safe. I mean, it's a very very great tool and instrument to use in real estate. So,
Yep.
all right,
All
man. I
right.
don't know about you, but I'm a little beat up now.
Yep. Well, that's about all for now. But like you said, as it rolls out, more to come.
Okie doke. Guys, appreciate you joining us. We will catch you next week, same time, same channel. See you then. Take care.
Have a great week.